Maharaj ki jai.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishkam Vitamscha Om Ajnana Timirandasya Yanajana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Varatanam Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Vijapranam Devam Divyatanam Suchanda Paranam Balarka Shelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sareka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Yashishwara Shridaram Mansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat by Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur, with translation by Sarvabhavana Das, and this is Madhya Lila, chapter 27, the Vaishnavas' feelings of separation awaken. All glory to Sri Vishwambar, the son of Sachimata. Bold as a lion, our Lord is the deliverer of the fallen souls. After hearing of the Lord's desire to take sannyas, all the devotees were very much perturbed and grief-stricken. Though the Lord was still in Navadip, they were already feeling the pangs of separation from their beloved Chaitanya, and they cried piteously. They said amongst themselves, Where will he go after taking sannyas? When will we see him again? Surely he won't return to this village after accepting a mendicant's robe. There will be no way of finding out where he is and in which direction he is traveling. The devotees were constantly worrying in this manner, their hearts filled with consternation that they may never see their most precious Lord again. No one took interest in food and sleep any longer. The Lord could not bear the pain his devotees were suffering. Smiling pleasantly to alleviate their distress, the Lord assured them, Why do you unnecessarily vex yourselves? I am always present with you. It is wrong of you to think that once I have taken sannyas, I will leave all of you and go far away. Not for a moment can I leave you, for all of you are my eternal associates, not just for this birth, but birth after birth. Those of you who are associated with me in this incarnation will eternally remain with me in the mellow of congregational chanting of the holy name. In every yuga I advent, and in every one of my innumerable incarnations, you have participated in my pastimes. With this advent, I've come in two incarnations. One is the congregational chanting, and the other is my transcendental deity form full of bliss. In both these incarnations, you must participate in my pastimes with full vigor and joy, chanting with me in ecstasy. I am taking sannyas only to educate humanity. Therefore, please allay your fears and worries. Placating the distressed devotees with his sweet words, Chaitanya embraced each of them repeatedly. The Lord's words had a pacifying effect on the devotees, and feeling assured, they allowed their beloved master to leave. Swiftly the word spread everywhere that Nimai was going to embrace the mendicant life. When Sachimata heard the news, her heart almost stopped. Her grief was so intense that the pain of the entire universe seemed like nothing. She fell to the ground, unconscious, and remained lying on the floor, her tears flowing in torrents. The lotus-eyed Lord saw this heart-rending sight, sitting very still and grave. Sachimata cried out to Nimai, saying, "My darling son, please do not leave your mother and go. All of us are simply dependent upon seeing your divine lotus face, your lotus eyes and moonlight glowing face, ruby lips, and pearly jasmine white teeth, words like showers of ambrosia, and graceful, gentle elephant's gait are impossible to live without your constant followers. Advaita and Srivas and your bosom friends, Nityananda and Gadadhar, are always there. Just stay home and perform your congregational chanting." You have incarnated to teach everyone the principles of religion. Then, which religion teaches one to leave your mother, to leave one's mother? You embody the religious principles, and if you forsake your mother, then how will you teach the world about religion? Laden with immense love for her son, Sachi Devi spoke out these words, and the Lord heard all this quietly, unable to speak, his voice choked with intense love for his mother. She continued, "Your elder brother left some time ago, and then your father left for the Lord's eternal abode. After that, only you remained, but looking at you, I could forget my pains of separation. Now if you leave, I will certainly give up my life. My dearest son, just see the pitiful sight of your lonely widowed mother. How can you leave me? Stay home. Nityananda is always here. You can perform kirtan in your own house with all the devotees. You are everything to me. Your eyes are full of love and compassion. Your long arms are exquisite, and your words and cascades of nectar. My lampless, darkened house is illuminated by your presence, and your lotus feet are the source of life-giving elixir." Silently, Vishwambar sat and listened, bearing the deep pain within as his mother, out of intense love, spoke painful words of separation, like Kausalya trying to reason with Ramachandra. Sachi Devi spoke on, unable to calm herself, and the Lord remained patient, silently listening. Sachi Devi felt completely drained out, rampaged by the storm of grief. Food and sleep were to her now a curse. The Lord, seeing his mother's condition, revealed to her some secrets that might pacify her. He said, "Mother, please calm yourself and listen. I have been your son since many births. You were once Prishni and I was your son. Then again, in another life, you became Aditi and were residing in the heavenly planets, and I became your son, Vamanadev. Then once again, I became your son, Kapila, when you were Devahuti. When you were Kausalya, I was your son, Rama. Another time you were Devaki in Mathura, imprisoned in the dungeons of the cruel king Kamsa, and I became your son, Krishna. In this present incarnation, I will be your son twice. You will be the mother of my incarnation in the deity form, and also the mother of my incarnation as the holy name. Mother, in this way, you have had me as your son eternally. I can never leave you, Mother. I reveal this to you very confidentially. Now, Mother, please allay your fears and grief." Upon hearing this esoteric narration, Sachi Devi was somewhat calmed. Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda are my life and soul. I, Vrindaban Das, humbly offer this song at their lotus feet. All glory to Madhya-khanda, chapter 28. Sri Chaitanya takes sannyas. All glory to Sri Gauranga, Lord and husband of Sri Vishnu Priya Devi. Kindly cast your merciful glance upon the living entities. The Supreme Godhead, Sri Vishwambar, engaged in incessant sankirtan, experiencing immense happiness. No one knows the real purpose of the activities of the Supreme Lord. He is the absolute autocrat and does as he pleases. He was always absorbed in the ecstasy of sankirtan in the company of the Vaishnavas. The devotees were also so enraptured by the continuous kirtan that they never considered even for a moment that their beloved Lord might leave them. These greatly fortunate devotees enjoyed pastimes with that Supreme Personality upon whom the personified Vedas constantly meditate. The day Lord Sri Chaitanya decided to enter the sannyas order, he revealed his decision in confidence to Nityananda Prabhu. He said to Sri Nityananda, "My dear Nityananda Gosai, what I am about to divulge to you may be repeated to only 5 others. Tomorrow is the day of Makara Sankranti, when the sun begins to travel in a northerly direction. And I will certainly accept the renounced order of sannyas. In the village of Katwa, near Indrani, lives the exalted personality Sri Keshavarati. It is from him that I will receive my sannyas. This is the desire of providence. The 5 persons who you must inform are my mother, Sri Gadadhar, Sri Brahmananda, Sri Chandrasekharacharya, and Sri Mukunda." Sri Nityananda then went to see those 5 individuals separately and informed them in confidence about the Lord's decision. That entire day, Sri Chaitanya spent in performing Sankirtan with all his Vaishnava devotees. The Lord relished his noon prasadam, and later in the evening, he went to take darshan of the holy Ganga. There he offered obeisances to Ganga Devi, sat down on her banks for a while, and then returned home early. He sat in his house, surrounded by his devotees, but none among them knew that the Lord was leaving the next day. For the moment, the devotees exulted in the association of the Supreme Lord. The Lord, with beautiful lotus petal eyes, sat decorated with flower garlands and sandalwood paste. As the Vaishnavas arrived one by one, they presented the Lord with flower garlands. Such was the magnetic potency of the Lord that it was simply inconceivable how a continuous stream of visitors from all directions kept pouring in, so much so that even Brahma would be in difficulty to count them all. They came in, paid full obeisances, and fixed their eyes on the Lord's enchanting face with rapt attention. To each of the visitors, the Lord gave a garland from around his neck and instructed them all as follows: "Go and praise the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, chant his holy name, worship him and sing his glories. Do not think of anything other than Krishna. If you have any love for me, then show it by chanting and singing no other name, only the names of Krishna at all times. Remember and chant his holy name, whether asleep, awake, or eating." After instructing everyone in this manner, he ordered them to return to their homes. As one group of visitors left, another fresh group arrived. Most of them were unknown to each other, but that did not deter them from their ecstatic feelings. All the while, the Supreme Lord, more resplendent than many moons, sat there, wreathed in countless flower garlands and decorated with sandalwood pulp. While leaving, the visitors loudly chanted the holy names, Hari, Hari, feeling most jubilant they had received the Lord's grace. Just then, green tender gourd in hand, Sri Sridhar, this is Kolavecha Sridhar, just then green tender gourd in hand, Sri Sridhar walked into the Lord's house. Seeing this, Lord Sri Gaurasundar laughed and inquired, Sridhar, from where did you procure this gourd? It's like Loki. The Lord thought to himself, tomorrow I'm leaving, but I cannot refuse or waste Sridhar's gift. I will eat it tonight. The Supreme Lord is always prepared to satisfy his devotees. He is famous as Bhakta Vatsala. The Lord requested his mother to cook the gourd. Right at that moment, someone walked in with some milk and offered to the Lord. The Lord was very pleased and said, this is wonderful. Now, Mother, you can prepare a delicacy with milk and gourd. Mother Sachi was happy with the turn of events, and she went to cook with great satisfaction. The Supreme Lord of Vaikuntha is always willing to fulfill the desires of his devotees, for he is their loving guardian. The devotees remained late into the night and left when the Lord was about to take his meal. The Lord saw everyone off and sat down to eat. He relished his mother's cooking, washed his mouth, hands, and feet, and retired for the night to his quarters. The Supreme Lord called upon his mystic sleep, Yoga Nidra, while Srila Haridas and Srila Gadadhar lay down to rest close by. Sachimata knew the Lord was to leave at early dawn, so she could not sleep but wept incessantly. A couple of hours before sunrise, the Lord woke up, and determining the auspicious time by the flow of breath from his nostrils, he prepared himself for the journey. Srila Haridas and Srila Gadadhar also woke up. Srila Gadadhar said, I want to accompany you, to which the Lord replied, no one may accompany me to where I'm going. I'm always alone and independent. Such are my activities. Sachimata understood that it was time for her son to leave home, so she waited sitting at the door. Seeing his mother at the door, the Lord sat down next to her and held her hands. He tried to console her, saying, you brought me up and took care of me in plentiful ways. I was educated and properly raised due to your endeavors. You never bothered for even a tiny bit of pleasure for yourself, but all through, since my birth, you always made sure that I had the best of everything. Moment to moment, you increasingly showered me with your love and affection. Even in millions of lifetimes, I will never be able to reciprocate your tender feelings. Life after life, I will be in your debt, which only you, by your grace, can waive. Dear Mother, everyone in this creation is under the Supreme Lord's control. No one has the power to become independent of his control. The Lord alone arranges unions and separations. Who can fathom the depth of his mind and will? Whether I leave now or 10 days later, you should not lament. You do not have to worry about anything. I will take full care of you. That is my responsibility. Crossing his hand over her breast, he repeatedly assured his dear mother, your upkeep and well-being is my responsibility and mine alone. Sachimata silently heard everything her son said to her. She did not reply, but wept and wept. Sachimata, the universal mother, willed herself to become like Mother Earth, the symbol of patience. Who can understand the inconceivable eternal pastimes of the Supreme Lord? Sri Gaura Sundar smeared his hand over the dust of his mother's feet, circumambulated her and left. The divine hero of Vaikuntha left home to enter the renounced order to liberate all living entities. My dear brothers, respected readers, by hearing the narrations of the Supreme Lord taking sannyas, one is freed from all material bondage. As soon as the Lord left, Sachimata became almost inert and was unable to speak, as still as a statue. The rest of the devotees knew nothing of these developments. After completing their morning ablutions and rituals, as was usual, they came to offer obeisances to the Lord, but found Sachimata sitting by the outside doorway of the house. The noble Srila Srivas was the first to inquire, why do you sit by the doorway? Sachimata was called why do you sit by the doorway? Almost inert, she at first remained silent, while tears flowed freely from her eyes. Finally, after a short while, she said, "My dear sons, listen. It is decreed in the scriptures that the possessions of the Supreme Lord Vishnu rightfully belong to his devotees, the Vaishnavas. Therefore, whatever items belong to my son are now yours. Take them. The Lord has left me." Realizing that the Lord had left home, the devotees were shocked and fell swooning to the ground. Overcome with grief, they walked loudly in despair and pain. Overcome with grief, they wailed loudly in despair and pain. They held each other for comfort and babbled as if in delirium. "Oh, Gopinath, why did this terrible night have to end? How will I live without seeing his moonlight face? What meaning is there to this sinful life? Why has the sky not come crashing down without prior warning?" They rolled on the ground, weeping and lamenting, unable to bear the searing pain of separation. As the other devotees began to arrive, upon hearing of the Lord's departure, they all drowned in an ocean of sorrow. The loud wailing of the Vaishnavas enveloped the Lord's house. They cried, "We are destitute orphans, and our Lord and Master has left us to take up sannyas, leaving us drowning in an ocean of sorrow." Devotees wept uncontrollably, becoming almost unconscious with grief. They cried and loudly chanted, "Hari, Hari." They felt that their life, possessions, family, etc. was worth nothing without the Lord's presence. They beat their breasts and struck their foreheads in utter despondency. Their beloved Lord had left without informing them. Thinking of this, they rolled on the ground, oblivious of the dust that covered them. The Lord's courtyard witnessed this heart-rending scene of the Vaishnavas writhing both within and without in the excruciating pain of separation. Srila Mukunda, Sri Murari, Sri Sridhar, Srila Sridhar, Srila Mukunda, Sri Murari, Srila Sridhar, Srila Gadadhar, Sri Gangadas, Srila Shivas and his family members, Sri Acharya, Srila Haridas, and many others were there sharing the grief that unannounced had suddenly struck them. The sound of their loud wailing echoed throughout Navadip, and all the residents came running to see what had happened. Young and old, men and women, rushed to Nimai Pandit's house and loudly lamented that their beloved Lord had left them. However, the atheists were happy that the Lord had gone. Gradually, the devotees stopped crying, calmed themselves, and sat down, encircling Sachimata. As the news spread of the Lord's departure from home to take up sannyas. As the news spread of the Lord's departure from home to take up sannyas, people came from near and far. They were astonished to hear that Nimai Pandit had decided to enter the renounced order. In Nimai's house they found everyone red-eyed, weeping and Nimai absent. The entire weight and impact of the news of Nimai's leaving finally struck them, and even the heavy critics and atheists felt sad and full of genuine remorse. They said, "We are so sinful that we failed to recognize even an exalted personality." We are so sinful that we failed to recognize such an elevated personality. No longer shall we see his moonlight beautiful face. Let us put fire to our homes and leave town to become yogis. Why should we remain at home when the Lord himself has left Navadip and gone away? What is our life worth to us? How are we still breathing? The townspeople cried, lamented, and fell swooning to the ground. Men, women, old and young, were as if thrown into a well of acute grief. A supreme independent Lord, Sri Gaurasundar, a supreme independent Lord, Sri Gaurasundar, knows which method to apply for liberating every particular person. He embraced the renounced order, intending to alleviate the suffering of all living entities and save them. Now we see that even those who were envious and antagonistic towards the Lord were bitten by the poisonous snake of separation from the Lord. All glory and victory to the Supreme Lord of all living beings, Sri Gaurachandra, for he has made a wonderful plan to liberate all jiva souls. My dear readers, please listen attentively to the details of the Lord receiving sannyas. By hearing this, one is freed from the bondage of infinite karmic reactions. After leaving home, Sri Gauranga Sundar crossed to the other side of the Ganga and came to Kantak Nagar, Katwa. The 5 close associates to whom he had previously intimated his plans gradually arrived and met him. Sri Advaita Nityananda Prabhu, Srila Gadadhar, Sri Mukunda, and Sri Chandrasekhar Acharya, and Sri Brahmananda. Then the Supreme Lord, walking with the gait of a mad lion, which went with them to the place of Sri Keshavarati. The great and pious Sri Keshavarati, observing the wonderful and effulgent form of the Lord, rushed to receive him with awe and respect. However, the Lord prostrated himself before Sri Bharati and with folded hands prayed, "My dear sir, please be kind to me. You are the savior of fallen souls, an infinitely magnanimous personality. You are empowered to give Krishna, the Lord of my heart, because the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna Chandra, is always enthroned in your heart. I have no desire other than to become a servant of Krishna. So kindly instruct me." By now the Lord's body was drenched in his own tears, which flowed freely due to his intense feelings of divine love. Roaring loudly like a lion, he began to dance. No sooner had the son of Mother Sachi started his dance than Sri Mukunda and the other devotees began to sing. Suddenly, from nowhere, people by the scores started to pour in, attracted by the kirtan. When they saw the exquisite beauty of Sri Gaurasundar, they could not take their gaze away, but stared at his lotus face, drinking in divine beauty. Then a most incredible incident took place. The Supreme Lord danced and pirouetted in midair. Then a most incredible incident took place. The Supreme Lord danced and pirouetted in midair, spraying everyone with his incessant cascade of tears. The people were drenched, soaked to the skin. Men, women, and children were swathed in the tears of divine Krishna prema, and they spontaneously chanted, Hari, Hari. Different ecstatic symptoms such as shivering, perspiration, swooning, etc., manifested upon the Lord's person in waves. When he fell to the ground like a stick, the assembled public was petrified. Then the Supreme Lord, proprietor of unlimited universes, in utter humility, holding straw between his teeth, went around to all present, begging his own service, the service of Sri Krishna. Seeing the Lord's humility and compassion, knowing he was about to enter the renounced order, those present began to weep, moved by intense grief. The women were thinking aloud, saying, how will his mother live through this? Who could understand the pains of her last night with Nimai at home? Who was that most fortunate maiden who had such an ocean of good qualities as a husband, but is now bereft? Who was that most fortunate maiden who had such an ocean of good qualities as a husband, but is now bereft? So, who had him as was that most fortunate maiden who had such an ocean of good qualities as a husband, referring to Vishnu Priya, but is now bereft? By what great misfortune did Providence snatch him away from her? We are not his kin, mere outsiders, yet even our hearts are pierced by the sharp arrows of grief. What to speak of his mother and wife? How will they survive this? Sri Chaitanya, by his divine potency, had trapped everyone. All had become very attached to him, and in his absence they now wept along with the Vaishnavas and his family. After some time, Sri Vishwambar stopped dancing, became composed, and sat down with all his associates around him. Sri Keshavarti was absorbed in an ocean of bliss after seeing the devotional sentiments displayed by the Lord, and he began to glorify Chaitanya, saying, the devotion that you have displayed, which I saw with my own eyes, is a manifestation. After some time, Sri Vishwambar stopped dancing, became composed, and sat down with all his associates around him. Sri Keshavarti was absorbed in an ocean of bliss after seeing the devotional sentiments displayed by the Lord, and he began to glorify Chaitanya, saying, the devotion that you displayed, which I saw with my own eyes, is a manifestation of the divine potency, which Sri Hari alone possesses. I am certain that you are the original spiritual master, the guru of the universe. Hence, no one is qualified to be your guru. However, for this sole purpose of instructing the world, you have chosen me to become your guru. This is my opinion. To this the Lord replied, kindly do not put me into illusion and confuse me, but initiate me as your disciple so that I may be blessed with servitorship to Sri Krishna. Speaking in this way, the Lord spent the whole night amongst his associates, steeped in the nectar of Krishna Katha. In the early hours of the next morning, the Lord of the universe ordered Sri Chandrasekharacharya, you are practiced in the performance of the Vedic rituals, so I am selecting you as my representative. Make all necessary arrangements. Sri Chandrasekhar immediately busied himself in organizing the upcoming event. However, many out of the ordinary and miraculous occurrences happened. Milk, yogurt, ghee, grains, betel leaf, sandalwood, flowers, sacred thread, cloth, etc. were brought in large quantities by people from distant villages without being asked. Unknown persons brought all varieties of foodstuffs in abundance. The activities and loud chanting of the holy name, the activities and atmosphere were surcharged with fervor and echoed with the loud chanting of the holy name. In fact, the only sound loud and clear was Hari, 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 Hari. Everyone was chanting in divine bliss. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the life of all, sat down to have his head shaved, including his shika. As soon as the barber came and sat before the Lord, a huge cry and the sound of wailing rent the air. The poor barber, instead of taking the razor, sat with his head in his hands and wept. Nityananda Prabhu and the other Vaishnavas were inconsolable as they rolled in the dust weeping bitterly. Even ordinary householders and materialistic people were deeply grief-stricken with tear-filled eyes. Some of them spoke out their minds in this manner. Why did Providence create the renounced order? The ladies wept and released long sighs. The demigods who were present incognito wept and wailed. The entire universe was grieving. Gauranga was able to generate Karunya Ras, the mellow of compassion, to such an extent that even the nearby brick, stone, and wood were melting from within. The Lord manifested all these pastimes simply to liberate the living entities. That everyone wept is the proof. Sri Gaurachandra could not remain patient due to great upsurges of spiritual emotion accompanied by ecstatic symptoms such as weeping and shivering caused by Prema Ras, divine love. Vishwambar stood up loudly chanting, Haribo, Haribo. Mukunda took the cue and began to sing while the Lord broke out into an ecstatic dance. Ecstatic emotions washed over the Lord's person, coming in waves as different symptoms of prema manifested. The barber just sat there, unable to shave the Lord's shika. Finally, at the end of the day, the shaving ceremony was conducted amidst jubilant Prema Ras. Thereafter, the Lord bathed in the holy Ganga, came back and took his seat at the designated place for the Sannyas initiation rituals to begin. The Vedas declare the Supreme Lord Sri Gaurachandra to be the instructing spiritual master of everyone and everything. He conveyed this truth to Sri Kesha Bharati indirectly. The Lord said, a great personality appeared in my dream and uttered a sannyas mantra to me. Hear it now and discern if this is the proper mantra or not. The Lord then whispered the mantra into the ears of Sri Bharati. Then with a great simple stratagem, the Supreme Lord, thus with a simple stratagem, the Supreme Lord initiated Sri Bharati as his disciple. Sri Bharati was very astonished, impressed, and said, this is the most profound amongst all mantras. By Sri Krishna's grace, may all its mysteries be revealed to you. as instructed by the Lord. Sri Bharati then repeated the same mantra into the ear of Sri Chaitanya. The air exploded with the sounds. The air exploded with the sound of loud chanting of the holy name from the ascended The air exploded with the sound of loud chanting of the holy name from the assembled devotees and public as the Lord of Vaikuntha was initiated into the sannyas order. The Lord then dressed in a saffron robe and overshadowed the beauty. The Lord then dressed in a saffron robe and overshadowed the beauty of millions of cupids. The sandalwood tilak markings upon his forehead and other parts of his body and other parts of his divine body were luminescent, and heaps of fragrant flower garlands were draped upon his neck. In one hand he held a sannyas danda, and in the other hand the kamandalu water pot. He was completely absorbed in the ecstasy of prema ras, divine love. The brightness of his beatific face waned the brilliance of millions upon millions of full moons, as exalted tears cascaded down his cheeks. None other than Srila Vyasadeva will give an extensive and detailed description of his sannyas appearance. Actually, Srila Vyasa has already described in the Vishnu Sahasran Stotra one of the incarnations of the Supreme Lord which embrace the sannyas order. Actually, Srila Vyasadeva is already described in the Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra, one of the incarnations of the Supreme Lord which embraces the sannyas order. The best of the twice-born Brahmins, Sri Vishwambar, has fulfilled that prophecy. The assembled Vaishnavas who witnessed this event of Sri Chaitanya entering the renounced order understood this truth. The wise and grave Sri Keshav Bharati began to consider in his mind what sannyas name to choose for the Lord. He pondered, in my experience I have not come across in all the 14 worlds such an exalted Vaishnava as Sri Vishwambar. Therefore my heart's wish is to choose a unique name not heard of before, according to rule and etiquette. The disciple of a Bharati title holder should also be named Bharati, but this does not appeal to me as befitting his status. As these thoughts were crossing his mind, Sri Saraswati Devi, in the form of unadulterated transcendental knowledge, came to his assistance. Thus Sri Bharati found the name for which he was looking, for the topmost jewel amongst sannyasis. Placing his hand on the Lord's chest, Bharati said aloud, "As you have inspired everyone, like no other person, to chant the name of Krishna, thereby awakening their slumbering consciousness, Chaitanya, and as you have propagated congregational chanting of the holy name, your name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya. You have benedicted the entire universe." No sooner had the exalted sannyasi Sri Bharati made this pronouncement Then the enthusiastic crowd of devotees and bystanders broke out into loud, jubilant shouts and chants of the holy name. Everyone was transported to a world of infinite bliss. All the devotees offered sincere respects and obeisances to Sri Kesabharati. Sri Chaitanya himself was also extremely happy with his sannyas name. The devotees prostrated themselves at the Lord's lotus feet. The Supreme Lord basked in the glory of his newly acquired status, and his original name was broadcast to the world. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya is always engaged in performing ever fresh and unique pastimes. Only those who are recipients of his grace are able to see them. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya is always engaged in performing ever fresh and unique pastimes. Only those who are recipients of his grace are able to see them. The countless nuances and mellows in the pastimes that were manifest at that place are known completely only by Sri Nityananda Prabhu, under his orders and directions, and by his mercy I am able to pen down a few of them and complete them and compile them into this book. Only by Nityananda's orders and directions and by his mercy I am able to pen down a few of them and compile them into this book that refers to as the Lord's pastimes. I offer my humble obeisances at the feet of all the Vaishnavas. I pray to them that they do not take offense for this shortcoming on my part. Srila Vyasadeva will describe these pastimes in lengthy detail over many millions of verses in the Vedas. The Madhya-khanda section of this book ends with the Lord receiving sannyas. Whosoever hears this narration will immediately be rewarded with servitorship to his lotus feet. By hearing this most auspicious pastime of sannyas initiation, one certainly receives the ultimate treasure of Krishna Prema. My only desire is that I may never forget my two most worshipable lordships, Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Will I be blessed one day with the wonderful vision of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu surrounded by all the Vaishnava devotees. Sri Gauranga is the Lord of my Lord, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and this gives me great spiritual strength and satisfaction. Anyone who simply utters, I am Nityananda's servant, will certainly be able to see Sri Chaitanya. The most dear, beloved friend and devotee of Sri Chaitanya is Sri Nityananda. Therefore, my heartfelt prayers is that I may never be deprived of the association of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Sri Nityananda is the distributor of Krishna Prema. I pray that I, on his behalf, can serve Sri Gaurachandra. As those who desire to cross over to the ocean of material existence, all those who desire to cross over the ocean of material existence and drown in the nectar of Prema Bhakti, worship and serve the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. A wooden doll is made to dance by pulling strings. Similarly, I write only that which Sri Nityananda Prabhu is making me write. So, as a wooden doll dances by pulling strings like a puppet. Furthermore, Just as a bird cannot find the limits of the sky but flies only as much as its strength will allow, similarly the pastimes of the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya are limitless like the sky, and I write only to the extent of my ability. O Sri Chaitanya Chandra, I offer you my respectful, humble obeisances. You are the embodiment of rasa, spiritual mellow, and the enactor of the ecstatic pastimes of Sri Krishna. Your beautiful, exquisite form is transcendental and covered in golden brilliance beyond human sense perception. This is, O Sri Chaitanya Chandra, I offer you my repeated humble obeisances. You are the embodiment of rasa, spiritual mellow, and the enactor of the ecstatic pastimes of Sri Krishna. Your beautiful, exquisite form is transcendental and covered in golden brilliance beyond human sense perception. You have distributed to the world the priceless gift of the highest nectar of Krishna Prema. I, Vrindaban Das, offer this song at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who are my life and soul. Thus ends the Madhya-khanda of the Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Chadavaya Nama. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Chadavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Maranaman. Giridhari Gopinatha Maranaman. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jawate Vignana Shabista Puran. Jawate Vignana Shabista Puran. H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas. H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas. Tasabar Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tasabar Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tader Charana Sebi Bhakta Sanibas. Tader Charana Sebi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame Janame More Abhilash. Janame Janame More Abhilash. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilavas. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilavas. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyash. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyash. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamadas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamadas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Juki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadar Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadar Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakshidhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Sigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishvabaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shiman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Koladvip Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindaban Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Shri Purushottam Dham Ki Jai. Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai. Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Srina Sringadev Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.